Hi champs, welcome to Tiger Academy. I'm Raja. Let us have a discussion on Chapter 1 Science Standard 10 NCERT. Now, even before we go ahead and start our discussion, I kindly request you to have a rough note, a pen, and if possible, your textbook by your side. Because the way we would discuss this chapter is as sequential as it is given in the book. So, if you have the book by your side, then it will be easier for you to jot down the points, to underline some important concepts so that you have better understanding, and when you prepare for your examinations, it will become much more easier for you to go for your exam preparations, right? So let us go straight into the lesson and let's see what it has in store for us. Lesson 1 is all about chemical reactions and equations, you see there. And even before we go ahead and have a discussion about the chemical reactions and equations, I would like to have an informal discussion about what reactions are. There are so many reactions that happen around us. And one such example is dip a nail in water, keep it exposed to air for a few days, and when you rub your finger over it after a few days, you will find a brown amorphous solid that sticks to your fingers. Now this is oxidation of iron, and what sticks to your finger when you run your finger over the nail is iron oxide. Now this is a natural reaction that happens without any intervention, right? So you don't need a lab, you don't need the chemicals, you don't have to feel the chemicals reacting with each other. There are many reactions that happen in nature without the intervention of any external force. One such is what we discuss now. So in this lesson, what we would discuss is what these reactions are, what are the classifications of these reactions, how to balance them, how to express them in an equation format. So how we find this in our daily life. So all these things are in store for us with this lesson. So let us get into the lesson and let's see what it has in store for us. Now, what is a chemical reaction? A chemical reaction is a process in which one or more substance, the reactants, are converted to one or more new substances called the products. So there is a set of reactants which initially start reacting with each other. When they react with each other, they change, and they change into products. Now, the process of the reactants getting converted into products is called the chemical reaction. Now, there are some examples given there. The food we eat, it gets converted into energy within us. We get energy. Now, that is also a chemical reaction, right? So, let us recall. All the matter in nature is composed of elements or combination of elements. When two elements or more elements combine, they form something called a compound. So these compounds are capable of reacting with each other, and these changes could be physical or chemical. Right, so this is just a recall. Now let's see what physical changes are. Physical changes is change of state of matter. So one classical example is water. Water is in liquid state. When you freeze water, water becomes ice, and ice is in solid state. When you apply heat to the ice, it melts, it becomes water. If we apply more heat to the water, it becomes vapor, which is the gaseous state. So there is a possibility of a change of state of matter, but the inherent property of water doesn't change at all. It remains the same. So the physical change is reversible and it is not a permanent change. So what is a chemical change? Now a chemical change is, the example is burning of paper. When you burn the paper, it becomes ash. Can we convert this ash back to paper? We cannot. So this is a permanent change. So when there is a permanent change due to any other external factor like heat or whether it happens naturally, that is called a chemical change. And chemical changes are irreversible and they are permanent. Now, when do we observe a chemical change? These are the properties of the chemical changes which are jotted there. Change in physical and chemical properties, it is an irreversible process, and energy is either absorbed or evolved. So when we have energy either absorbed or evolved, and when there is a irreversible property, we call it a chemical change. And the transformation of chemical substance into another chemical substance is called a chemical reaction. So one chemical getting converted into another chemical is a chemical reaction. Right. So, an example for chemical change. A very simple example, you take a magnesium ribbon, burn it on Bunsen burner, it burns with a dazzling flame and it forms an amorphous solid which simply falls in the watch glass if you have it under that ribbon. So what happens here is that magnesium is actually converted into magnesium oxide. Now this reaction is something that we need to remember, because we are going to use this reaction for future reference also. So if you look into that reaction which is in the middle, 2 Mg plus O2 gives 2 MgO. Okay, the substance that undergo the chemical changes in the reaction, that is magnesium and oxygen, are called the reactants, because we know it's only the reactants, they react with each other and they form the product. So here the reactants are magnesium and oxygen, and the product is magnesium oxide. So what are the observations when a chemical reaction occurs? Now this again is very important. If there's a change in state, if there's a change in color, if there is an evolution of gas, and if there is a change in temperature, then we say that a chemical reaction has occurred. So these 4 points, please remember. I repeat again, a change in state, a change in color, evolution of gas, and a change in temperature. These are the observations we have when a chemical change happens. So let us meet in the next video. Thank you.